In this video, we're going to fact check the claim that there's approximately $50 billion worth of student loan debt that could be eliminated in bankruptcy, no questions asked. So stay tuned, bankruptcy bailout buddies. Welcome, debtors and borrowers, to Bankruptcy Bailout. My name is Matt Burkus. I'm a Colorado-based bankruptcy and student loan attorney. And today, I'm going to fact check an article recently published by Business Insider claiming that there's about $50 billion worth of student loan debt that could be discharged in bankruptcy, just like credit card debt. I've linked that article in the description to this video. So first, let's set a little context here. As most of us know, student loans are presumptively non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. So if you file bankruptcy and you have student loans, nothing's going to happen to them. They're going to sail through the bankruptcy and you're still going to owe them after the fact. Now, there is a process to try to discharge student loans in bankruptcy, and that requires you to file a lawsuit, or what in bankruptcy is called an adversary proceeding, against your student loan servicers and prove that repaying your student loans would cause an undue hardship. Now, that's an extremely high burden to get to that level, so most people genuinely don't qualify to have their student loans discharged in bankruptcy. But explaining all that is an entirely different video, but at least that sets some context for what we're talking about here. So what this article is talking about is specifically private student loans. Okay, so you have federal student loans and you have private student loans. Now, the vast majority of student loans are federal student loans. It's something about, out of the $1.7 trillion of student loan debt, it's close to about $1.4 trillion is federal. So private student loans are fairly uncommon anyway. And what this article is saying is based on some recent developments in case law with regard to private student loans. So let's set some context. There's two types of private student loans. You have certified private student loans and uncertified private student loans. Or you might also come across the term conforming private student loans, non-conforming private student loans. And this distinction gets missed a lot in this discussion. So certified private student loans typically will flow through the school's financial aid office. So they will sort of arrange the funds and funding, and if you need additional funding on top of your federal student loans, the financial aid office will then provide some private student loans. And what makes them certified is that the amount you can borrow is going to be capped by what the school estimates its cost of attendance. Now, for any school to receive federal financial aid, which is all schools, but to receive federal financial aid, the school has to determine what's called an estimated cost of attendance. And this is the total amount of money that would be required to attend the school. And it's not just tuition, fees, it also includes living expenses, transportation, insurance. So basically, it's the basket of funds that the school determines you need to attend that school, and you cannot receive any more financial aid than that cost of attendance. And so if the cost of attendance is $100,000, that sets a cap on the total amount of financial aid, including student loans, that you can borrow. However, if you want to borrow more than that, you can go direct to a bank and get a private student loan, and that's an uncertified private student loan. So that's money you're just going to the bank, just like borrowing regular money, like a regular loan, and getting that money and using it however you want. Okay, so those are the two types of private student loans. And what this article is getting at is that there may be about $50 billion worth of uncertified private student loans sitting out there. Now, personally, I think the $50 billion number is a bit speculative and probably a tad high. These loans are fairly uncommon. I mean, I represent student loan borrowers, and I don't really see them that often. Most of the time I see it's mostly federal student loans and certified private student loans. But occasionally you do see these loans. But $50 billion seems a little high, but still, there is this category of student loans that are these uncertified loans. And recent case law has said that, look, these uncertified private student loans are not qualified educational loans under the IRS code. and therefore they are dischargeable in bankruptcy, and you don't have to file an adversary proceeding. So this is a big win. I mean, this is a big deal. I did a previous video, which I'll link here, talking about this. The case in my district, which is the 10th Circuit, which is where Colorado is, was McDaniels v. Navient, where the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals said, yeah, no, these are not qualified these type of uncertified private student loans are not qualified education loans, and therefore are just discharged in bankruptcy just like any other debt, and you don't have to do anything else. So that is what this Business Insider article is getting at. Now, it used to be the case about a decade ago, the case law, before the case law came out that said that well, these just aren't qualified education loans, the analysis used to be how you used your private student loans. So if you used them on tuition and books and so forth, that portion of your private student loan would be non-dischargeable. But if you use the other part of your private student loan, say on living expenses, medical insurance, to pay medical bills or whatever, that portion was not going to be dischargeable. But the courts really moved away from that case-by-case analysis, and even in Colorado, where we used to do that type of analysis, the courts have subsequently held that no, if it was a private student loan per contract, it's a private student loan. And then we finally got the ruling saying, no, if these are uncertified private student loans, which is basically direct-to-consumer or direct-to-borrower loans, even if they're called student loans, and they're uncertified, means they're not subject to the lending cap or flowed through the financial aid office of the school, those are simply not qualified education loans under the IRS and under the bankruptcy code, and therefore are dischargeable. So this Business Insider article, I think, is mostly accurate. I mean, I don't think it does a good job of sort of explaining the nuance of the issue. Or at least it doesn't give you enough context to understand what the issue is, and hopefully this video has helped you do that. I think the $50 billion may be a little speculative, but if you have these uncertified private student loans, you may file bankruptcy and discharge them. However, I think as a practical matter, you may still need to file an adversary proceeding to get the court to declare them as such, because these loans are not going to be identified specifically as certified and uncertified private student loans. That's not what they look like. You're going to have to prove, most likely, that these loans are in fact uncertified. There's two ways you can do that. This is just a quick technical point. One is you can just be proactive, file the adversary proceeding, and just do it, and say, hey, court, these are uncertified private loans. I want a determination of dischargeability. Or the other way you might be able to do it is you let them ride through the bankruptcy, they try to collect, and then you try to ding them on a discharge violation. Either way, you're still going to have to litigate the issue, and I tend to think it's better to be proactive about being proactive about getting what you want to have happen. Anyway, my name is Matt Burkus, Colorado bankruptcy and student loan attorney. I hope this video has helped you understand the nuance of this article and the difference between the dischargeability of certified private student loans and uncertified private student loans. If you need help with any of this, I offer initial consultations. They are $169. We hold them by phone, and I can certainly help residents of Colorado with the filing of bankruptcy and their student loan issues. Best of luck to you.